Hi, welcome to Feeding Us, Cooking for a Healthy Pregnancy and Beyond. This is our first virtual class, and it's an adaptation of a class that we've been doing successfully over the last 18 months at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. It's designed to inspire um, you to want to cook in a healthy way and cook delicious things that will allow you to have a healthy weight gain for pregnancy and develop um, patterns of cooking and eating that may be part of your life beyond the pregnancy as well. I'm Susan Hellerstein, a practicing OBGYN at Brigham and Women's Hospital, and a generous gift allowed me to pursue this dream of teaching cooking to pregnant women. I've been advising women for years about how to eat in a healthy fashion to gain the right amount of weight, and realized that it's hard to put nutrition advice into practice unless you have the cooking skills and you understand how delicious it can be to actually cook healthy food. So the goal of this class is to help you put this advice into practice, to have you understand the simple recommendations and realize that healthy eating can be delicious and you can expand your cooking skills to be able to do it. We want you to try some new foods, some new combinations, learn cooking techniques, and become more confident. So feel free to take today's class and the other classes in our series of 5, and tell your friends to join us too. I want to introduce you to the other members of the team. Chef Eva Katz has worked in a various number of roles and is a contributing editor at America's Test Kitchen for years. She's worked in restaurants, catering, recipe publishing, and teaching cooking classes. She's helped us develop this curriculum that involves fresh and delicious foods, practical cooking skills, and kitchen organizational skills. So if you haven't already turned on your oven, please do at 425. Chef Laura Klein is a culinary wellness coach. She's taught a variety of healthy cooking classes in person and virtually. She's combined her business skills in marketing and lifetime medicine experiences with us and helped us deliver this newly adapted online virtual cooking class. She has newly acquired chef skills that she'll be helping with teaching future classes with us. Next, we have dietitian Andrea Roche. She's a registered dietitian and certified lactation consultant. She specializes in prenatal and postpartum nutrition, as well as lactation counseling. And she has experience both in research and practical coaching. She's super passionate about food and loves to be in the kitchen when she's not with her 2 young kiddos. Last but not least, we have Sarah Summer, who's an almost college grad from BU and an amazing research and program assistant. She's helped us organize the communications for this class with you and our program in general. I'm sure that you've received a number of emails or texts from her. So some housekeeping. People may have a variety of experience with Zoom. Please mute your speaker. Turn your video off if you don't want to be recorded. But we will be sure to edit out any recordings of you personally in anything that we share or post. When it comes to the end of the class, we're going to ask you to turn your video back on because we want to see what you've cooked. If you'd like to rename yourself, please do with your first name only, and send us questions via the chat box. Recipes are also posted in the chat box. So we have a packed hour today. We're going to start with kitchen setup. We're going to go to the kale and sweet potato salad. We'll next make the quinoa stew. We have a nutrition talk about general recommendations in pregnancy. We'll then plate our meals, share what we've made, and answer questions. So welcome to Feeding Us, Cooking for a Healthy Pregnancy and Beyond.
Hi everybody, welcome to my kitchen. We got a couple great recipes we're going to be making today. Before we get started with cooking, I'm just going to show you my little setup here, how I like to work. I have a really, really big cutting board. Most people don't have big cutting boards like this, but I recommend using as big as one as you have. on a regular basis. If you have a small little cutting board, I've seen people try and make meals on like little bartender cutting boards. It's not going to be very efficient. If you have a cutting board kind of like this, that would be good. Sometimes these lighter cutting boards can slip around, so I recommend taking a damp cloth and putting it underneath your cutting board so it doesn't move around, and this will stabilize it, help you prevent the board from slipping and you cutting yourself. So little safety tip there. I use my cutting board chopping just about everything, like onions, vegetables, bread, you know, pretty much anything except for fruit and meat. I find the fruit picks up some of the flavors from, so I use green cutting board I use for fruits, and red cutting board I use for meats. Chicken, and then these ones can go in the dishwasher or they can be really well scrubbed, and that way you're not sort of getting cross-contamination with meats on your nice cutting board. Let's see. I like to work with kind of a trash bin on near my worktop. I don't like to move around too much. I think when you know, sort of training in restaurants, you're sort of forced into a little space, which is good because walking around is kind of a waste of time, and you just want to be able to be as efficient as possible. So I grab all my ingredients before I cook, bring them over, so I don't have to walk back to the refrigerator. I use a compost, but if you don't have a compost, you can just use like a little bowl and you put all your debris in your bowl. If you have a trash right near you, that's great too. Does everybody have their oven on? Hope so. 425, we're going to start by putting some sweet potatoes in the oven. So we have two recipes. We've got the sweet potato and kale salad, and we have the quinoa stew. We're going to be kind of going back and forth a couple of times. So from recipe to recipe, so I'm going to tell you sort of the plan so you know you can prepare yourself. We're going to start by tossing our sweet potatoes in a little bit of vegetable spray or oil and roasting them. Then we're going to start getting our quinoa stew going. Once that's simmering, we can go back and prep our kale for the salad and make the dressing for the salad, and so kind of going back and forth. I'll show you a little bit of knife skills while we're going through everything, and if you have any questions, write it up in the chat. Somebody will either answer your question or ask me. And all right, so I hope you had a chance to Mise everything. Did you watch any of those videos that we sent you little clips to? How you read through a recipe, and this is my little Mise for the sweet potato salad. I'm just going to take the sweet potatoes for now, and I'll put this back. So this is actually kind of a pretty stable potato, but sometimes when you have a sort of a round vegetable, it rocks like this. So what I would do before cutting it is just take maybe a little piece off to stabilize it. And I just want to be safe. And we're going to cut these into 1-inch cubes. You should have yours done. If not, get chopping. All right, so you're going to put your sweet potatoes on this baking sheet. Does everybody see this is a rimmed baking sheet? It's not a cookie sheet, and I prefer these for roasting vegetables because they don't warp. I don't know if you've ever put a cookie sheet in a hot oven. They end up kind of warping on you. So we're going to roasting vegetables is such an excellent way of bringing out the flavors, the sweetness, the intensity, the deliciousness of vegetables. And I know a lot of people who are not fans of a lot of vegetables, and then they roast them and they're like, oh, that was good. Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, they're all really great green beans, you name it, cabbage wedges, all great roasted. And it's basically the same concept. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a spritz. Salt, pepper. I keep a little dish of kosher salt and freshly ground pepper by my workspace. Rather than use, I use a lot of pepper, and rather than use a pepper grinder, I just take a little bit of peppercorns every 3 or 4 days and grind them in a spice grinder. All right, so you spread them out, make sure there's plenty of space. If you have too crowded of a pan, you'll end up sort of steaming your vegetables and they won't brown. So in the oven they go. Set our timers. They take about 25, 30, 35 minutes to roast, but we'll check them halfway through. I'm going to just set my timer for like about 15 minutes just to make sure nothing's crazy is going on. Okay. All right, now I'm going to bring over my knees for the stew. I know a couple people said they had a hard time finding quinoa, and I think we recommended that you can use some quick cooking lentils like red lentils. I hope that that works out for you. So if everybody has time to bring their ingredients over to their workstation, hopefully by their cooktop, we'll get cooking. So quinoa has a coating on it. It's a natural coating that protects it, and that coating needs to be washed off. Some packaged quinoas will tell you that it's pre-washed. This one is not pre-washed, so I washed it. And it actually says in the instructions to wash it. So this, all right, so we're gonna get started. Turn your pot on to like a medium high and add your olive oil. Let it heat up for a minute maybe, just so it gets sort of shimmery. Have yourself like a wooden spoon ready. Oh, actually.
Eva, can you show us your mise en place? Because just so we know what that looks like, your mise en place for this. Just show us see how she has everything out there that is going to be in the recipe. It makes her be able to do this like the cooking show. And it's a great skill that I've learned from Eva.
So we're going to saute some onions and peppers. I have an onion already chopped, but I just want to give you a little quick demo in chopping onions. You cut it halfway through the stem, leave the stem intact. Take the skins off. I'm just going to cut this. The other tip for cooking, you know, just to sort of clean up as you go, do one task at a time. So let's say you had 4 onions and you need to peel and chop. You would peel them, you would slice them, peel them all first before you start chopping them. Then you do the chopping. So this way you've gotten rid of your debris and you have room on your cutting board. All right, so this is a fairly small onion, easy to handle. And I'm gonna just cut down lengthwise, sort of along the ribs. You see I'm holding my knife mostly on the base, but I have a little bit grabbing onto the knife part of the metal of the knife. All right, and then I keep my fingertips tucked under, and I use the knuckles to guide the knife blade. This way, when I push the knife down, I'm not gonna cut on my fingertips. I keep the tip of the knife on the cutting board, and I do sort of a motion, like a sawing motion, not a sawing motion, but just an up and down motion, keeping the tip on the board. If you have a really large onion that's kind of hard to manage, you can cut your onion in half and sort of make quarters out of it. And you can cut it this way, and then you can actually turn it around, cut it again a couple times, and then you get a nice small dice without having to go back and redice it. All right, so for the red pepper, I'm just going to cut around the ribs and the core. And I'm just going to maybe take out some of this white pith and make small kind of 1/4 inch cubes. So I've made
So we hope that you have been able to prepare in advance, because we don't expect anyone to be able to cut quite as quickly as Eva. But if you haven't, this time, next class, try to get everything prepared beforehand, because it's hard to keep up with Eva.
All right, back to the cooktop. All right, I'm heating up my oil and my onions.
Hey, Eva, how can you tell when the oil is hot enough to start cooking?
So I'm looking for it to shimmer a little bit, kind of like it's like little waves on the oil. Also gets a little fragrant too. The other thing I like to use, I don't know, a lot of people don't have these, but if you have a bench scraper that you would use normally for pastries, they're a great tool to keep on in your workstation, scooping things up, rather than using your knife, which isn't a good idea. I do it, but all right. Let's get your onions and peppers in the pot. Okay, so the other ingredients in this recipe kind of has a little bit of a Southwest flavor. You could change up this flavor profile. Instead of using the chipotles, which I have, which are smoked jalapenos, they're just like packed so much flavor in them. They come in these cans. I don't have the can with me anymore, but you know, they're just wonderful. There's like such a big flavor in there and adds so much depth to cooking. But if you wanted to go Indianish, you could just skip this, maybe add some garam masala or some harissa, and you can do kind of a Moroccan flavor. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with the same ingredients and just changing up your flavor profile. So we got the vegetables softening. Got to give it a few minutes. I am using this super, you know, the ingredients are super versatile too. So you can flavor profile this versatile, so is the ingredients. I've chosen to use frozen lima beans. The black beans are great. Edamame is great. Kidney beans are good. I'm using frozen corn, a great thing to keep in your freezer. Everybody's sizzling away.
Everybody's good so far. And also, Ava, somebody didn't have lentils, and they didn't have red lentils, so they asked about green lentils, which I said were fine. They just take a little longer to cook.
Asking if green lentils are fine to use.
Yes. Okay. So if you're using lentils, what you're going to have to keep an eye on is just the cooking time. So we're going to put in all this sort of aromatics, the spice, the sauce, the tomatoes, and your grain. And before you add your corn and your beans, maybe just check to make sure that your lentils are cooked enough. If they're not, just give it a little bit more time. And if you're worried about things like evaporating, you can always add a little bit more water and just give it a little bit more time. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I just can't guarantee it's going to cook in the 15 minutes with the steam much. But I think we should be okay.
Great, thank you.
All right. So my onions are getting golden. Give it a couple, maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. Making a lot of noise over here. It's sizzling away.
Gabe, I think your hand might be over the speaker a little bit. It's a little hard to hear Eva.
I think I fixed it.
Thank you.
All good.
All right. So now I'm going to add my garlic, my chipotle that I've chopped up, and the spices. We got cumin, coriander, and sweet paprika. If you don't have sweet paprika, you can just skip all those spices and add chili powder, which is basically kind of what those flavors, cumin, coriander, paprika are already in chili powder. So that's an option too. And what we're doing now is by cooking the spices in the oil, we're kind of blooming them, waking them up. And we're just going to get a better flavor in our end product by taking this step. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to add my broth. I'm using a vegetable broth. And I'm going to use the bottom of the wooden spoon to kind of scrape up any kind of brown bits on the bottom of the pan. That stuff is flavor. Okay, tomatoes and quinoa. Salt. Meant to add some salt with the onions, but all right. So one of the things about seasoning is it's a really good idea to season along the way rather than just once. I know some people are concerned about the amount of salt that they eat, but I think by salting it in different stages, you might end up actually using less salt at the end, right? At the end, because the ingredients are kind of absorbing the salt as they go along. Imagine sort of like how hard it is to season like a green bean if the water that you cooked in it wasn't salted. It's almost impossible to get that salt in those green beans. So, all right. So we're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to lower it and let it simmer for a little while. I'm going to rearrange everybody. If you take a minute to kind of rearrange yourself and get the kale ready to prep. We're going to do this together. As you notice in the recipe, I told you not to do this ahead of time because we're going to do it together. I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm using Tuscan kale, which is my favorite. It's called dinosaur kale. But you can use curly kale. You can use collard greens. What we're going to do is hold the stalk upright, and then you use your fingers and you kind of slide down the sides of the stalk, and you leave the stalk, the core behind, the stem, you know, and then you just get the leaves. All right, everybody, give it a go.
Can you use baby kale?
If you're going to use baby kale, that's fine, but you may not want to massage it quite as long or quite as vigorously as we will. If you have really small little leaves like this, I think it's okay to leave the core on. It's really just the more fibrous, the thicker fibrous ones. We just cut that off. And
what about Swiss chard?
I'm going through the motion of doing all this step first. All right, and then getting rid of, and then we'll go back and we'll do the chopping. And I've washed all my greens ahead of time. You can definitely chop these and wash these afterwards. But I have been washing just about everything really thoroughly, you know, and I find that doing it ahead of time saves me time now. But anyway, speaking of washing vegetables, I wash even things that you wouldn't think to wash, like avocados and oranges and lemons, because I feel like even though we're maybe not using the skins, so this little stuff, this all totally fine. We don't need fuss with that.
Ava, we have a question about Swiss chard. Can you use Swiss chard instead of?
Absolutely.
Okay. What about spinach? Spinach okay?
Same thing. You still want to remove the stalks.
Spinach.
Oh, spinach?
What about spinach?
You can use spinach. It's definitely a gentler, kind of gentle flavor and a gentler texture. But I don't see why not. Just not going to do the massaging at all. It'll just end up with. Is somebody using spinach in there? Has anybody got spinach?
Somebody was asking if they could substitute. I don't think they're using it tonight, but they were just asking.
Okay. All right. So all of my stems have been removed, and now I'm going to take the greens and chop them into kind of 2-inch pieces. And then put them in a bowl. All right, I'm lowering my stew. So it's just sort of a gentle simmer. Oh, back to washing. Okay, my beeper went off. I'm gonna check on my sweet potatoes. Looking good. Nothing burnt. I'll set my timer for another 10 minutes. Okay, I'll set 15 minutes. It should be, yeah. How's everybody going with their kale?
Everybody looks good so far.
All right.
You will all have some catch-up time because we're going to do a little talk about nutrition and pregnancy. So if you're falling behind, don't worry.
So I was talking about washing vegetables and why I wash things like avocados and lemons. I don't know if I finished that train of thought, but the reason why I wash those vegetables and fruits as well is once you cut into them, with a knife, something from the exterior of that avocado could get into the interior, and so. And I was doing that before COVID, but now that I'm doing it even a little bit more sort of religiously. All right. Always cleaning as I go. All right. I hope everybody's almost done with their kale. I'm going to get ready with the dressing. All right, so I've got some shallots, some diced shallots. I chopped them up just like I chopped those onions, same concept. A little bit of garlic, smoked paprika. This is just another one of these sort of secret ingredients like chipotles. They have a little smokiness. They have so much flavor. I think of like chipotles as sort of the bacon of the vegetarian world. So much flavor. Some sherry vinegar. If you don't have sherry vinegar, you can use rice wine vinegar. Rice wine vinegar or red wine vinegar or white vinegar. And a little salt, pepper. And we'll give it a little bit of a whisk with the oil.
Eva, do you do this mise en place even when you're doing cooking for yourself and not our little cooking?
Depends on what I'm making, Susan. That's a really good question. If I'm trying new recipes, I tend to like to have things organized so I can just concentrate on the recipe and make sure I don't make mistakes. I'm baking, I always try and mise en place things. I might mise things together, so I'm not using a million little cups. If I'm making a stir fry, absolutely. Everything is ready before I hit the stove because the stir fry goes like that. You don't want to be, you're doing things on high heat and it's fast. You can't be chopping anything. If I'm making a stew, and I'm browning my meat. And I know that that's going to take me 10 minutes. I will start that process and I will do some prepping on the side. You know, it's basically how to best use your time. So I have some peanuts here, and I just want to show you a way of you can crush them. It's just using the bottom of a bowl. A little easier than a knife, but you definitely can use a knife too if you want to. This works really well with peanuts. Not so much with other nuts. Pretty good with cashews. Almonds are a little hard. Walnuts, it's okay. Doesn't have to be super even. It's kind of a rustic dish. We're going to take half of the peanuts and put them in the dressing. Okay. Now we're going to get dirty. We're going to add our chopped kale to the bowl with the dressing. This is a great, great salad for make ahead. I mean, kale, just you can make this salad. This is great for batch cooking because you can make this salad and put them in 4 different little containers, and you've got 4 like lunches that you can bring to the office if you ever go back to the office to work with that. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but anyway. So we're massaging. Who ever thought you'd be massaging a vegetable? But we're giving this kale, breaking down the fiber so it's more palatable, it's more digestible. It's like it's a pretty fibrous vegetable. This just makes it so much more pleasant to eat. Massaging it.
And of course, we all washed our hands for the 20 seconds before we started.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I meant to start with that, didn't I, Susan? Oh, well. I mean, I did. I washed my hands before I got going, but I meant to have everybody do it together. Just as a reminder.
Eva, if we don't have shallots, what could you use instead?
Oh, you can use a little red onion, maybe use like 1/4 cup of red onion. You can use some scallion whites. You can use white onion, anything. I mean, shallots are just a mild onion. So that's a good question. All right, I think this is good. So it's sort of the volume has kind of gone down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go wash my hands. I'm gonna give you all a minute to catch up. And so I think this is a good time to talk nutrition. We've got another 8 to 10 minutes on the timer for the sweet potatoes. So why don't we go, I think it's a good time. Why don't we go to Andrea, sorry.
So hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Andrea, and I am a registered dietitian and lactation consultant. Today we're going to kind of talk basics of nutrition and pregnancy. So one of the main messages we want to get across, if we can switch the slide to our beautiful balanced plate. Yeah, so you'll see here, basically this is the main message we want to get across, is that we're really focusing on fruit and veggies forward. So if you take a typical dinner plate, for example, cut it in half, ideally half of your plate should be fruits and or veggies. So going, yeah, and then you, on that other half, slice that other half in half. So you've got 2/4 essentially. And on 1/4 of that plate, you've got a healthy starch or grain. We've got a whole other session where we're going to talk, really focus on healthy grains and how quality is what matters. Same thing with protein, focusing on lean quality proteins. And then you'll notice these other components of the plate, healthy fats. Definitely want to watch portion sizes, but every meal really should contain a healthy fat, as it helps you absorb most of the nutrients that are in the fruits and veggies. Then dairy, and that can include non-dairy, and the focus here is during pregnancy we need a lot more calcium. Also good source of protein. And then fluids, don't forget to keep the fluids up. Water's always the best option. One other message we like to make is, when you're thinking about portion sizes, a serving of protein, a lot of people ask, what is that? Well, it's basically the palm of your hand. A serving of vegetables would be one fist. A servings of carbs would be a cupped hand. So hopefully you guys can see me. And then a serving of fats is about one thumb. So kind of using the hand method to think of portion control. So looking at the next slide, you'll see here, this is a perfectly balanced breakfast plate. Half the plate are fruits, 1/4 whole grain, another quarter lean protein, and then that avocado there to kind of tie everything together with that healthy fat, and a little non-fat Greek yogurt for some added protein and calcium. And then when we are out and about, again, if that ever happens again, this is what a perfectly balanced lunch might look like. And then for dinner, you see here, again, half the plate, veggies, 1/4 lean protein, 1/4 grain. So then looking at, or talking about weight gain during pregnancy, this is not the time to start losing weight. Weight gain is definitely expected. And the rate of weight gain depends on your pre-pregnancy weight or BMI. Definitely something to speak with your midwife or OB during all of your visits. So if we look at this next chart here, the next slide. So this shows you, if you look at that first column, what your pre-pregnancy weight or BMI was. So if you don't know this, this is definitely something to ask your healthcare provider about. And then you can kind of gauge how much weight you should be gaining per trimester. So this is, I believe this is going to be on our website if you want to look at this in more detail. But again, always something good to bring up during your office visits. In terms of calories, we really want to avoid the mentality of eating for two. That would mean, an additional 1,800 to 2,000 calories for most of us. And yeah, babies just don't need that much. So, and also focusing more so on quality again, rather than quantity of the food. You'll notice here for second trimester, recommendation is around 340 extra calories. That's a large snack, or maybe 2 small snacks, or a small meal. And then third trimester, as we get a little bigger, we want to focus more on around 450 extra calories per day. And that's about a typical meal. And then again, looking at your weight gain pattern, which is something you can work with your healthcare team or registered dietitian on. And then food safety. This is more important than ever. But kind of some of the general recommendations while pregnant. We want to avoid the undercooked and raw foods. So unfortunately, no sushi, no runny eggs, no poached eggs. In terms of fish, it's the mercury that we're most concerned about. And that's found in those big fish. So that's going to be like king mackerel, marlin, orange roughy, swordfish, shark, tilefish, and most tuna. In terms of deli meats, definitely don't want to eat these cold. It's typically recommended to avoid most deli meats, but some can be eaten safely if they are heated to steaming, which can be done in the microwave or stovetop. In terms of pasteurization, we usually just associate this with milk products, but even juices can often be unpasteurized. What you want to do is look at the label. If it's pasteurized, it will say so on the label. Same thing with cheeses. It will always say the first ingredient. If it's pasteurized, will say pasteurized cow's milk. And then caffeine, one of the hardest things to limit while pregnant for many women. Keep this to 2 cups or less per day. In terms of teas, most grocery store teas are safe, but I would avoid anything that says detox, cleansing, or medicinal. Another thing, if you have more questions, you can certainly ask us, but also good questions to ask during your healthcare visits. Artificial sweeteners, this is another thing a lot of women ask about. Typically, I recommend avoiding the blue or the pink stuff. and that's the green and the yellow stuff. So your stevia and your Splenda are probably okay. Just don't go too overboard. And yeah, looking at the next slide, we thought this was pretty relevant to discuss some food safety and quarantine. So, you know, as best as possible, minimizing our trips to the grocery store and planning ahead. So if you aren't one to meal plan, this is a great time to start that practice. So, you know, meal planning for 2 weeks and prioritizing fresh foods over first. So when you do go into the grocery store, go to the fresh food produce section first. Make a list. Not only will that help with meal planning, but it'll get you in and out more quickly. And then, of course, timing, you know, shop early or late, consider delivery or curbside pickup. And this is also a great time to prepare more home-cooked meals, which hopefully we're inspiring you right now to do that with this class. And then food delivery options and takeout. A lot of people are opting for those meal delivery or those food delivery programs such as HelloFresh, where everything is already chopped and prepared. You just get to put it all together in the end. And then in terms of takeout, you know, avoiding contact with the delivery person. So often over the phone, you can provide payment without a signature and just leave instructions, please leave at my front door. When the food does come in the house, I recommend putting it immediately in your sink and transferring the food to other containers. And of course, wash your hands. Do we have time to talk about nutrients or should we get back to Eva?
I think we can
I think we need to check on our sweet potatoes.
Okay.
Everybody, how's the sweet potatoes going? Mine are done. Okay, you want to show them a picture of what mine looks like? Spotty brown, nice caramelization. And we also want to put our lima beans, if our quinoa's done. My quinoa is definitely done. If you're working with lentils, check them, see what the texture's like, make sure that they're kind of, these don't go in for very long, but I'm going to put my beans and corn in, stir that in. All right. And how's everybody doing? Can you give me a thumbs up? All right, so anybody have any questions? Okay, so I'm going to plate my sweet potato salad, my kale salad. I'm putting the kale and then dressing down first. And I'm going to take my sweet potatoes. This salad is so delicious. It's like, and it's special enough. It's different enough that you might want to do it for if you're entertaining. If you ever do that again, remember that? So my sweet potatoes on top, and the rest of my peanuts. And I gave you a recipe for pickled jalapenos, kind of a little bonus recipe. You're welcome for the bonus, but I love the flavors of something pickled with almost everything. So, but if you don't have them, so I had some already done, but I also have some freshly chopped ones. So if you're going to use a fresh one, which I think is just equally delicious, you could just put a little bit on like that. If you're using the pickled ones, because they're milder, there's a little sweetness in them. You can use the rings if you want. And pickled vegetables, pickled onions, I should just add like such a pop of flavor and acid to your recipe, to your food. It's just delicious. So, is everybody at a point where they can platter their salad, or you could just leave it in the bowl and just put your sweet potatoes on top. That's fine too.
Ava, does the sweet potatoes need to be cool before you put them on top of the salad?
No, they can. You can do them ahead of time. They don't have to be. Totally flexible. Great question. So the stew is looking really good. The thing about the quinoa stew is as it sits, so it looks more like a soup now. But if you waited until later on this evening to eat this, it'd probably thicken up. It'll be more like a porridge. It's delicious like that, but if you prefer it a little brothier, or a little bit more broth. It's perfectly normal and it's equally delicious. So it's not really a problem. I'm going to taste this before I just have like a tasting spoon, so I'm not dipping my spoon back in there. Tastes great. Doesn't need a thing. So I have some recommendations for things that I like to serve with this, and that includes some queso fresca or feta cheese. I'm using feta cheese. Maybe some cilantro. You can put the cilantro in this. I probably will put a little bit on top and then stir some of this in this. And some avocado that I washed. Just scoop up. Notice that I flipped it over, and just again for stability. I'm all about like preventing accidents. So I could have cut it kind of cup side up, but it might have rolled around. I might have slipped my knife. Yeah.
Eva, do you cut cilantro with the stems or do you take the stems off?
Yes, I leave some of the stems on. There's a lot of flavor in stems. So when I'm chopping cilantro, I leave some of the stems on, and I bunch it up, kind of grab it up, make a ball of my hand. Then I grab my knife and start chopping. And I'm going for kind of a rough chop, almost like a slice. That's it. Doesn't have to be too fine. All right. Put some onion to put it in there. Let's go ahead and do that. And again, this soup is great for batch cooking. You can portion them out, have 4 portions. I wouldn't necessarily say that these 2 recipes are like meant to be eaten together, but they could. I think this would be delicious as a side to like a roast chicken or a grilled steak. It's great on its own for a lunch. Maybe have a hard-boiled egg for some protein, extra protein. Anyway, I just want to know if anybody has any questions out there. How'd it go for you?
Can you tell us when to put the lime in, or is that just a garnish?
Oh, right. You squeeze a little lime.
I was wondering if anybody has been able to keep up, and if you could aim your camera onto what you have been able to cook. It's a challenge to keep up with Eva, but if anybody could just aim their camera or their computer. Hold on one second. I'm just going to take us off of this view and see if we can all see. Oh, something good. Emmy, that looks delicious. And Jack,